Okay, welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this show on Friday, February 11th, 2022, which is 3 days after this year's Academy Award nominations were announced. On the animation side of the street, there weren't really all that many surprises, were there, Drew? Or
no, although I was kind of hoping for Belle in place of Flea, because did you actually ever end up seeing that in the theater, Jim?
No, but
okay.
Flea intrigues me because not only nominated for animated feature, but also Best Documentary and Best International Feature.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's available on Hulu right now, if you haven't watched it yet. But I was kind of hoping Belle would sneak in for that. You know, there's always one indie in the group, but obviously that went to Flea, and Flea had a great day, and it was also just fun because I was up so early, and then I was talking to everyone who got nominated.
No, speaking of which, Drew got to talk to the directing team on Encanto. You got to speak to the director and the producer of Luca.
Yep.
Likewise, Phil Lord and Mike Brandon from Mitchell's vs. the Machines. And also the folks from Raya and the Dragon, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. You know, I don't know if you ever had to do these reaction things, Jim, but it's always like they're like staggered 5 minutes apart in like a condensed 30-minute period, you know? So it's like, can you get on with it? And then it's like, whoa. And it's also 7:00 in the morning. So, you know, there's that element as well. But it was a lot of fun to get those nominations and then immediately get to talk to everybody. It was great. And especially covering so much of the awards this year. Oh, yeah. And getting to talk to everybody. It was really fun.
I have to say, of the bunch, I think I enjoyed Mike Rianda.
He listens to the show, Jim, so you have to say his name correctly.
Mike Rianda. You had that great story of he's at his. Well, no, you tell. I mean, it's your story.
It's the most Mitchell's versus the Machines thing in the world because he's at his parents' house right now. He loses his phone. Some guy drives into the cell phone tower, so he has no internet either. And his father is trying to kind of make him feel better, and he's talking about the time that the squirrels crammed a bunch of nuts into the telephone line so that they couldn't even call anybody. So, I mean, and he's telling me the story, Jim, and I am like dying laughing. It is so funny.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the video where they're literally huddled around. I don't know how they get the internet to work, but they're huddled around a laptop in the driveway, and it's so early and so cold that everybody's wrapped in blankets. And when they said that, so Mike is bouncing around and getting hugs from his wife and his mom, and it's very, very sweet.
Yeah.
I think if I were voting, I'm torn because I think Luca is the film that in 20, 25 years, people are still going to be talking about, still pointing to. But on the other hand, I really want Mitchell's versus the Machines to get it because I feel like it would be more important for these folks and more to the point, underline circling and indenting that kind of film where, with its wonderful hand-drawn animation overlays and, that sort of thing. And the wonderful story.
Yeah.
Can they tie?
It's such a good year for animation. I swear to God. It is, I don't know. It was great. I mean, the things that weren't nominated like Belle or Summit of the Gods. I mean, these are great movies
They
still.
are. They are.
Yeah. I was just blown away by this year. So anyway, it was a lot of fun to do. And I hope people go and check that out on the Wrap. So you can read everybody's response. It was very fun.
It's a genuinely fun piece, but on the other hand, I felt so bad for you because here you are, you have to get up to be awake at 5:30 when they start making these announcements at Good Morning America. And then the very next day, you have to get up even earlier to catch episode 7 of the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, no, I just stayed awake that whole day and waited until midnight.
Are you kidding me?
At one point, I went to the couch. I put on Luca. I think he came out of the water, and then the next thing I remembered, he's on the train. So I mean, I lost an hour of my life, but it was it was enough to get me to midnight and to watch Book of Boba Fett. So
speaking of which, what did we think of In the Name of Honor, the last episode?
I wasn't super crazy about it. What about you?
I thought it delivered the good. I mean, mind you, I remember when Robert Rodriguez was talking about shooting the episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian, where he was going to be the one who got to work with Boba Fett. And this, given that, this character's had so little screen time, and everyone thinks he's a badass, that they showed the footage of him in his own backyard shooting reference with his kids and using action figures and that sort of thing. In a lot of ways, that's what the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett felt like to me. It's, again, kids in the backyard playing with their action figures. Anytime I get even more Amy Sedaris, and
yes, that was great.
Yes, hey, everybody, it's Mando. So
right.
But
it just underlined how much, I don't know, more compelling a character Mandalorian is, and that relationship with Grogu.
Oh yeah,
is so great, and that was definitely a missing piece of this. But hey, we got to see the Rancor climb a building like King Kong, so, how bad could it be?
Drew, again, stayed up all night, watched that. But 13 articles this week on the Wrap since Monday, including 2 about Pixar's Turning Red, which we're going to talk about at length in the second half of today's show.
Oh, good.
But first, the news portion of this week's Fine Tuning is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience, please book online at StorybookDestinations.com. As Drew and I were pre-gaming before we got started, we were actually talking about Disney's quarterly earnings call, which happened, was that Tuesday or Monday?
Wednesday at 1:30 Pacific, yes.
Okay. What did you think of what Mr. Chapek said, particularly when it came to Encanto?
Well, I always like whipping people up, Jim. So I was very keyed into this phrase that he used, that it was the next great Disney animated franchise. So I tweeted that out. Mm-hmm. I tagged Byron and Jared and said, "Are you guys ready for your long-awaited nap?" Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Jared responds with the eye emoji, and people went nuts. Jared said, "Oh my God, there's a sequel coming. There's a TV show coming. Certainly more merchandise, right?"
Oh, absolutely. One of the stats that got dropped during this quarterly earnings call, sales of Encanto merchandise defied post-holiday declines and actually increased following the film's release on Disney Plus on Christmas Eve. He then went on to say that it was the fastest title ever to cross the 200 million hours viewed threshold on that subscription streaming service. And as you mentioned, this is the exact quote from Bob. "These results are exactly what you would expect from the launch of a new Disney franchise."
There you go. Well, what's interesting, Jim, is that you said that the Turning Red merchandise was supposed to go on sale on the 8th, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You go to Shop Disney and there's new Encanto stuff, but no Turning Red yet.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there was a pivot or something, but Turning Red has not shown up yet.
Yeah, I mean, the weird part of it is right now, Turning Red, the publishing program, is on its way. Now, I don't know if you've been following what's going on at Barnes & Noble or at Amazon, but it's been fascinating to watch how, for example, there's an art of book for WandaVision that has had its release date changed, I want to say 3 and 4 times at this point. In fact, it just got pushed from, it was supposed to be out this coming Tuesday and got pushed, I want to say, to early March.
Okay.
And again, that was supposed to be out last fall. So we're dealing with supply chain things. You kind of knew this was going to happen with Encanto, given the hold music for
that's right. Yeah, so I was on hold. I was, as Jim is alluding to, I was doing roughly 1,000 things this week. And so I kind of had it on the background. And usually there's it's kind of your typical Disney World hold medley. Mm-hmm. Well, you'll hear Be Our Guest and you'll hear this or that. And this was the entire score for Encanto. Not just, we don't talk about Bruno, and then over to, Agatha All Along or something. This was the entire score. And it to me, it seems like that is one of the big deals of this movie, is the fact that it's not one song, it's not Let It Go, it is every song people love. And they're going back to this movie time and time again. And it's only a matter of time before we get more stuff, right?
Well, 8 of the songs from Encanto's soundtrack are in the Hot 100 at this point. And of course, we don't talk about Bruno. It's still number 1 on the charts. And again, when you have a franchise, you do things with it. And in fact, Len and I just talked, it's on this week's Disney Dish, about, you heard about that survey in regard to Harmonious, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is it better? Is it worse? Or is it the same than Reflections? And it turns out the people who commissioned that survey were Walt Disney World Entertainment themselves, that office, because they're aware that the show has problems. And they've decided that the way to fix this show is Encanto. They're going to cut the current finale of the show, which is Someday from Hunchback, which...
From Hunchback, yeah.
Well, I mean, Drew, you pointed out that, it was played over the credits at the end of the film, right?
Right.
Yeah, because it had actually been cut from the film because it was considered to be too depressing, and that's where we got God Bless the Outcast. That was the song written to replace Someday. Anyway, the notion is that they want to do 2 songs from Encanto to close out the show, because evidently a sad ballad is just not the way to end a theme park show. Also, for what I'm hearing in regard to future franchise expansion, it sounds like Encanto is going to get Moana, Princess and the Frog treatment, as in a new limited series for Disney Plus. They're kicking the tires on the idea of doing an Encanto holiday special, sort of a Christmas in Colombia idea, which I'm kind of intrigued by. But,
I wonder if they'll do a short, too. A Frozen Ever After, if you will.
That would be cool.
Well, no, that was Frozen Fever. I'm sorry, Jim. Frozen Ever After was the ride, which obviously everyone's chomping at the bit for a Columbia pavilion.
Well, the problem with that is, even if Chapek were to turn the key today, that's 3 to 4 years. First of all, there's no place to just drop it into as a ride. You'd have to build a show building. It's not a question of, okay, we have Norway, we have a boat track, go. Another thing, did it strike you as unusual that on the day of the Academy Award nominations, we also get our first real trailer for Lightyear?
Did it strike me as unusual or perverse for the guy who is covering all the animation on the Wrap? I was like, this is so unnecessary. What is going on?
Well, no, that's it exactly. Why on a day when you already have so much news? The show will drop on Tuesday, February 15th. So the Super Bowl is now in the rearview mirror. And I get that, Lightyear was going to be featured on, as part of the Super Bowl, but wouldn't it have made more sense to drop that on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
It's actually not a part of the Super Bowl.
What?
Yeah. I mean, I guess since this is after the Super Bowl, the only 2 things being promoted on the Super Bowl from Disney are Moon Knight and Doctor Strange. So,
okay.
Lightyear maybe just wanted to be ahead of that conversation. I don't know.
Wow. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought it was a great trailer. I'm really looking forward to this Agnes McLean film, but it just seems so weird to drop it at that moment where it would get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. I do want to correct you on something though, Jim.
What?
In your notes, you say it arrives in theaters, but there was no mention of a theatrical or a Disney Plus release.
Ooh.
Meaning this release is still very much up in the air.
Oh, no.
And Chapek described the flexibility to which they will be greeting new releases. So, TBD on this one. Literally not in the press release, not on the trailer, not on the tweet. This is very much up in the air. So,
wasn't that part of the conversation about Turning Red? That Turning Red is going to Disney Plus, but Lightyear is, or was that never officially?
No, I don't think it was ever officially a.
Holy cow! Oh, wow! All right, okay. Let's keep an eye on that then.
Yes.
But anyway, again, obviously, Lightyear, the origin story of Buzz Lightyear. We've got a lot of animation stars from years previous getting projects in the works this week. We got the news about Smurfs. This is a revival of the franchise over at Nickelodeon Paramount. They've got a new CG animated feature coming in December of 2024. But this kind of intrigues me because didn't Sony have Smurfs?
Yeah, I think the Nickelodeon Paramount angle sounds good to me, Jim. I'm intrigued by this. I think this could be nice. But
Okay.
I never saw the completely animated one.
Oh,
Kelly Asbury did.
Yeah, the Smurfs: The Lost Village. I mean, if you look at the 5 different Smurf things that Sony did between 2011 and 2017, we had the 2 live action animated things, Smurfs and Smurfs 2. We got hand-drawn animated things for television, the Smurfs: A Christmas Carol and the Smurfs, The Legend of Smurfy Hollow, and then...
Yeah, the Halloween one is good.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job. But I'm kind of intrigued that somehow Nickelodeon and Paramount swooped in and grabbed those rights. Speaking of swooping in and grabbing rights, what do you make of this Fox Entertainment deal to go after Gumby?
What a weird did you see that weird image they put out of them like going into the lot?
No.
Like stepping over whatever that is, Santa Monica or whatever, to go into the Fox lot. It was like, it always cracks me up when people kind of overestimate the popularity or cultural significance of some of these things. It's like...
What's weird is if you actually drill down into the Gumby story, it gets so strange. First of all, Art Clokey is a film student in California, and he creates a film called Gumasia. It's a parody of Fantasia with clay. And his teacher was like, you're good at this, do something else. And he creates a short that the son of David Sarnoff, the guy in charge of RCA and NBC, sees and says, hey, I could maybe do something with that with my dad's television network. Go make a pilot. And so he makes a short, a Gumby on the Moon, which winds up being shown on the Howdy Doody show in 55.
Wow, okay.
It's so popular, gets spun off into its own show, runs on the network for like 4 years. 59 gets syndicated. Show stays in production till 1969. But again, it's stop motion. It takes forever to make these things.
They were still being rerun, by the way, when I was a kid in the late 80s, early 90s. So
when you were a kid, you might have actually been watching the first revival, which here's the funniest part of that story. It all keyed off of Eddie Murphy going on Saturday Night Live in a Gumby costume. I'm Gumby, damn it. Yeah, but March of 82, it was such a popular appearance. He does it 7 more times on the show. And on the back of that, they revive Gumby in 88. They make 99 new 7-minute long episodes.
Wow. So were they programmed mixing in like the older ones and the new ones?
I want to say no, because they introduced new characters like Gumby's good, close personal friend, a mastodon, and a dinosaur.
Okay, I do remember the mastodon, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, somewhere along the line, somebody convinces the Clokey family that they should do a Gumby movie. They spent $2.8 million making a feature-length theatrical release. It gets released in October of 1995, just a month before Toy Story. It sells $57,000 worth of tickets. And evidently, the way Fox was able to pick it up is that Clokey's son, Joseph, died in May of 2018. And this was literally part of his estate, that the rights to Gumby. So Fox swooped in. Evidently, they've been showing both the old shorts and the new shorts on Tubi, which I guess is their short content platform. But yeah, they're going back into the Gumby business, and it's just sort of like, good luck. On the other hand, 20 new episodes of Futurama, except maybe not with John DiMaggio. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's weird. Well, first of all, them bringing it back is just, okay. I think Disney just looks every day for some unexploited IP and says, well, we can bring this back to life. Get out the, electricity. So, it's interesting, but the whole DiMaggio thing, I'm sure will be settled before they actually start recording. I think one of the trades said that the first table read was on Monday.
Yep.
But yeah, what do you think?
John's an interesting guy. I mean, did you ever get to see the documentary he shot, I Know That Voice, 2013, 2014?
Yeah, not the most sophisticated documentary, but a great kind of love letter to voice actors.
He's one of these guys who's lucky enough to have a couple of characters. I mean, Draken from Kim Possible, likewise Jake the dog from Adventure Time. And John has a sense of how valuable these characters are, having worked on multiple shows. And you've seen the story in the trades where they approach Billy West and Katie Seagal and John at the same time with a what they call a favored nation deal, that the top 3 voice actors on the show would all get the same money deal. And supposedly Billy and Katie said yes, but John wanted the whole lot for more money. And that's kind of where we are now. But I think you're right, especially given the social media response, which has got to be gratifying for John, just to see people. It's like, look, Bender's the show. If you don't have John, I'm not watching the show.
Right.
What's so funny to me is Futurama is the show you can't kill. 4 seasons on Fox. Then they made those 4 direct-to-video.
That was so weird.
It was, but then it had been showing it on Adult Swim. Comedy Central grabs the rights, but as they're grabbing the rights, they make a deal with Fox that we're going to take those 4 video premieres and cut them up into half-hour-long segments, and that'll be season 5.
Right. I never saw the newer episodes, because there were new episodes too. Or were they just the...
No,
okay.
Comedy Central did 1 season of 26 episodes, and I want to say those ran in 2010, 2011. They renewed it for 1 more season, but split that across 2000, half showed in 2012, the other half in 2013. But the thing that I seriously, we finish here tonight. I'm going to go find this. There's supposedly a Nerdist podcast where the cast reunites. They did in 2017, where it's an audio only Futurama episode.
Oh my God, this is so convoluted.
I agree, but I really want this to work. So here's hoping whatever amount of money is, just the publicity they're getting now. Which again, let's face it, we live in a Kardashian world, so no publicity or no bad publicity is bad publicity. People are talking about you.
Well, let's say to the corporate leaders of Disney, in solidarity with John, to bite our shiny metal asses.
Good news, everyone.
Yes.
So, all right. And speaking of good news, again, want to remind people that The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, debuts on Disney Plus on February 23rd. So
it's excellent. I think I can say that now. It's great.
Cool.
The new episodes are great.
All right. But again, it's just so weird that the Revive thing continues. Just this afternoon, Peacock revealed they've got 2 new animated series in the works that were based on relatively recent DreamWorks animation films. We've got this show based on Megamind that came out in theaters in October of 2010, and Abominable 2 years ago, 3 years, September 2019. But we've got the Megamind's Guide to Defending Your City, and then we've got Abominable and the Invisible City. So it's, hopefully they're protecting the same place. But the way it's explained to me is so much of the decision, at least when it comes to these streaming services, is you make your pitch and then they hand it off to the guys who run the algorithm. Is there an audience out there for this? And if there is an audience out there for this, how many episodes would they be interested in? And what will it cost to make those episodes?
Right.
And just that weird math.
It's almost like when something would sell a bunch of DVDs back when DVDs were the big thing, and then a sequel would be greenlit.
There we
just
go.
Based on the DVDs, know, so it's like that.
This brings me to how weird the news cycle is, or more to the point, how much the world has changed. I'm in Target this week. I'm making my editorial aisle to see whether or not, the Turning Red stuff is there. And I round a corner and stop dead because it's like, that's an Encanto Blu-ray and DVD display. And it's empty because it had been set up the day previous and people had picked it clean. But it's like on the very same day that the Academy Award nominations are announced. And again, and the Lightyear trailer comes out. The Blu-ray of Encanto goes on sale. Did you see a commercial? Did you see an ad or a billboard?
No, I think I saw it in the Target circular. But even, have you noticed, Jim, that they're not sending DVDs out anymore to the press?
Well, this is true. This is true.
So that's how I would know stuff was coming out, was when it would show up. So, yeah.
But you need somebody in the office to actually do that. So,
yes.
But no, I mean, it used to be, I mean, this was an essential part of the business plan. You know, the notion of that's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, and you'd have this huge promotional campaign leading up to that moment. And now it's not even an afterthought. They didn't even promote it.
No.
I'm just kind of startled by that. And speaking of things I'm startled by, tail end of last week, weren't we talking about how they were just casting new folks to go into Littletown, and then suddenly the plug gets pulled?
Yeah, I mean, I think they cast Rita Ora 6 days before
there we go.
It was
there
canceled.
We go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we want to say hi to Ava, first of all, as this is Josh Gad's project. And, you know, I want to be careful not to say anything I'm not supposed to, but
okay.
It's, it's very disappointing that it happened. You know, I think that everybody's confident it'll happen sometime, but God only knows when these people's schedules are going to line up again in this way, you know.
Just to sort of recap here, folks, again, Littletown was supposed to be a prequel to the live-action version of Beauty and the Beast, which arrived in theaters March of 2017. First rumblings of the trades came out in like March of 2020. We got it greenlit June of last year, and the earliest discussions of it were 6 episodes. Most recent were 8 episodes. And it's fascinating, the language that's being used, to the effect of, what's the phrase? The creative didn't come together in time? Because I guess hadn't they pushed it, the production start from spring to summer?
Yeah, and part of it was, I think, they were chasing the good weather because they're shooting in Europe.
There you go.
So it was a thing of like, you know, we've got to get this together in time. I don't know what the stumbling block was, but you and I both know if you throw enough money at a problem, it can get solved.
It can. But and that to me is what's interesting, is the language that's being used is not canceled, on hold. I had somebody at the studio today just basically tell me, look, we're kind of pinning our hopes right now on the live action version of Little Mermaid. If that is a monstrous hit in May of 2023, this will turn right on, because suddenly there'll be an interest in the music of Alan Menken, and there'll be an appetite for more of Disney live action. And it's just very weird that it got this far along, this casted up, and then put on hold.
Not since Gallivant, Jim, have I been so disappointed in a Alan Menken project getting shelved.
By the way, there is a full soundtrack of the Gallivant show, which I did order, and it's quite delightful.
For the kids out there, Jim, is it on Spotify as well, or do we know if there's a digital? Let me check right now.
I want to say yes. Okay. And the other thing here I want to stress is doing live musical limited series is tough. The folks who just did Schmigadoon for Apple TV Plus, that was 6 episodes, but that was shot up in Vancouver. That was mostly shot on sound stages, though they had to do this in the middle of the pandemic, so they faced their challenges as well. I mean, it can be done. I wonder if this was a budgetary thing, because that's the only time I've ever heard.
It got so close.
You know what what reminded me of? Remember how close were they to shooting Lone Ranger when they put it on hold for like 3 and 4 months?
Yep. I remember that well.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being more expensive than the first version.
There we go. By the way, we were just talking about the live action version of Little Mermaid to give you some idea of how long these live action things take to shoot. I was listening to Terry Gross interview Javier Bardem earlier this week, and he was talking about how he got the script for Being the Ricardos while he was on the set of The Little Mermaid playing King Triton. So think about it. That starts shooting in January of 2021. He decides that he'll do it as his follow-up project for Mermaid. He's on the set of Being the Ricardos in LA by March of this past year. And Being the Ricardos, managed to beat Little Mermaid. It's been on Netflix since December of this year.
Amazon Prime Video.
Amazon Prime. My mistake.
Yeah.
So,
yes. These things take so long. Sometimes I think they leave them in a little too long. They get a little overcooked, Jim.
This is true.
Look crispy.
Okay. Well, anyway, so from talking about the world's most famous redhead to turning red, we'll get to that topic when we get back.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
And we're back. By the way, Drew and I are both huge fans of Disney television animation, which is particularly
Disney-branded television now, Jim.
Well, I actually checked that ahead of our show today because I knew you were going to correct me. And it turns out the way they listed it is there's Disney branded television and that Disney television animation is a division of Disney branded television. But it's literally the first draft of the show notes tonight. I had Disney branded television, but I was like, wait a minute, let me check on that. I want to be right. Anyway, we're nattering about this stuff because the Owl House and Amphibia, we're finally getting brand new episodes of this next month, starting on March 19th. Also, while you're marking your calendar here, this coming Friday, February 18th, you get a twofer. You get the Cuphead show, debuts on Netflix, and we also get The Wonderful Winter of Mickey Mouse. That also debuts on the 18th, but that'll be over Disney+.
That's an extended episode of Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
And also, Cuphead is amazing. I've seen the first batch of episodes, so Jim will have a lot to talk about next week, I'm sure.
Can't wait. And speaking of getting to see cool stuff ahead of everybody else, Drew has taken part in the long lead press event for Pixar's 25th film. I have my trouble wrapping my head around that, but Turning Red, which, as you mentioned in the two stories that you wrote for the Rep, quite a departure for the folks up in Emeryville.
Oh, yeah.
But again, this is a Domi Shi film who you folks probably have already seen her short, Bow. That was the animated short that was out in front of The Incredibles, which was in theaters in June of 2018 and then went on to win that year's Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. But 4 years from directing her first short to a full-length animated feature.
Yeah, compare that to Enrico. It was 10 years between La Luna and Luca. So this is quite a quick turnaround.
Absolutely. I also want to provide a little context here that John Lasseter went on sabbatical in November of 2017. There were reports of unwanted touching of female employees at both Pixar and Disney. Then in June of 2018, Disney announces that Lasseter would be leaving the company at the end of the year when his contract with Disney and Pixar formally ran out. And you look at Turning Red, and I think, as you pointed out in your article, this is the first Pixar film directed solely by a woman. Mm-hmm. You have an entire leadership team. I think you pointed out, from producer Lindsay Collins all the way through to the story and art departments. Everybody's female.
Cinematographers, yeah, they're all female.
Yeah, and the story of this is about a 13-year-old Chinese girl growing up in Toronto, her relationship with her mom and her friends, and it's kind of hard not to read Turning Red as kind of a response to the Lasseter situation.
Well, here's where it gets interesting, because Lasseter did greenlight it, and I've heard that he was a huge supporter of Domi. But what I think the difference is, I don't think the movie, that, as it turned out, would have been as sort of honest and as sort of female forward as it is if Lasseter was there. I don't think Lasseter would have allowed an entire female creative leadership team or anything like that. I think that was all Pete. And from what I understand, Pete loves this movie and he loves Domi. So that's where it's interesting. And when you see it, Jim, I think you would say, oh, there's no way Lasseter would have allowed this, kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Turning Red, it's a coming of age story, but you said it's kind of a cousin to Luca.
Yeah, just in the stylistic departure of it. It feels very anime influenced, a little bit different. We'll talk about what kind of influenced it, but it's very stylized, but the stylization never breaks the emotional connection to the characters and to the situation. It's very relatable. It's set in Toronto in the early 2000s, which most of us remember quite well. Maybe not Toronto specifically, but the early 2000s, that kind of boy band craze and everything. And, she's got a Tamagotchi on her backpack, and all this stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
Typically at a long lead event, you get to see scenes from the first half of the movie. And you only get to see some of it's some of it's not. But it's typically about a half hour, 40 minutes worth of footage. So without giving any sizable story points away, do you have a favorite scene out of what you were shown? Or
Well, when she kind of becomes the panda and is kind of jumping around the city, which you've seen in all the trailers, so it's not a real spoiler. It's just so dynamic and so beautiful. And Ludwig Göransson, who's scored, we were talking about Book of Boba Fett, he did the theme to Book of Boba Fett and scored all of The Mandalorian, does this great music. And what made me like it even more was after watching the footage and joining in on the press day, they said that when red pandas get scared, they raise their arms. And so every time, if you watch the footage, every time she gets scared by somebody, she raises her arms like a red panda, which is very, very cute. Yeah.
That's so cool. But I so loved your interview with Lindsay and Domi, because I loved the back and forth there, because they were talking about, for example, the opening of the film, which Domi said referenced some of her favorite sitcoms as a child, right?
Right.
Clarissa explains it all, or Lizzie McGuire, Smart Guy, Sister.
Right.
But that was also because they're very self-referential, or they acknowledge that they're in the title sequence of a TV show, right?
Yeah, like she addresses the audience and sort of tells, she's a very confident young girl, which is, part of the, you usually go through the chart, the kind of course of an animated movie is like they start not confident, they get their confidence by the end of the movie. This is the movie where she starts off very confident and then loses her confidence when she turns into this giant red panda. So she's addressing the audience, she's walking down the street, she's looking into the camera, you see the first time that there has been a title card acknowledged in 25 movies at Pixar.
Wow.
So of course I had to talk about that.
Well, cool.
That was fun. Yeah.
But you also mentioned in your coverage that stylistic difference from previous Pixar, there's these little flourishes of hand-drawn animation that are in this thing.
Yeah.
Not like Mitchell's versus the Machine level, which is huge, deliberate, but little? What are we talking about?
Yeah, like there is sort of as we would say in comic books, emanata, where there are lines and expressions that indicate what the character is feeling, but there's also things like head shapes and mouth shapes change dramatically. And also, I know I'm jumping ahead in your questions, Jim, but there's these great cartoony things like where they'll have one body part move. Like there's a moment in the trailer you see where a little girl comes out of a bathroom stall and the panda pushes her in.
Yes.
And it's just, and her entire body is standing still and she's pushing with her arm. And they said that it was really hard to get the animators to do that because obviously if you were a real character and you're trying to convey life, you would, there would be muscles would be moving, the tail would be moving and all that. And they said, no, leave it like that, push the arm out. The other thing that they do for the first time, which actually Luca does this a little bit too, is that animators are always posing characters slightly askew to the camera so that you see both of their eyes. Yep. And in this one, they just let the profile be there, and it's really cool. And the other thing is her and her kind of girl squad, they'll do these things where they move together. Literally, like, they peek out behind the wall of a convenience store and it's all four of their heads together. Instead of what you would normally think, one would pop out, the other one, there would be some jostling for space, but they kind of have these heightened cartoony moments that just add so much to the movie. This is gonna be everyone's favorite Pixar movie on March 12th is my guess. That is what I think will happen with this.
As you pointed out in your story, what's fascinating is to deliver something that's this quality. And in fact, I guess they had just started production when the pandemic began. And you're a first-time director of a full-length feature, having done a short. And to suddenly, everybody's home. And now everything has to be done over a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, I also want this to reference, both Sailor Moon and Tex Avery. And it just sort of like, I just can't imagine being able to deliver the goods under that sort of conditions. But Domi not only did that, but to hear you talk, it's this incredibly personal film.
Yeah, and they said that being at home actually in a weird way helped the movie because it kind of took everybody's guard down because they were watching kids run into frame and, that you kind of saw the people as people and got to learn more about their personal lives, and everybody kind of put it into a movie that's very frank and honest about puberty and sexuality and the changes your body goes through. And, it's a real feat, I will say.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Well, can't wait. I mean, I guess the one thing is that this is the film that comes in, from Disney after Encanto, and that's going to be the yardstick. And it's, in a weird way, it's not going to be fair because obviously Turning Red didn't get, a 45-day theatrical release. I mean, Luca, in a weird sort of way, has a wonderful score. Obviously, beyond the boy band component, is music a big aspect of this thing? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the Ludwig Göransson score is just delightful, as always. He's well on his way to becoming a Disney legend, I think, at this point, between Mandalorian and Black Panther and all of his incredible score work. And it's very different and very early 2000s and very great.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, it's March 11th arriving in theaters, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's why you said it will be their favorite film by March 12th. I get it now.
March 12th,
okay, there we go.
Yes, you got it, Jim. You got it. But just think that Luca was the #1 streamed movie of 2021. I mean, I think Turning Red and Encanto will fight it out for the most streamed movie of 2022.
Well,
we will see.
I'm sure Mr. Chapek will share that on the next quarterly earnings call.
Yes.
Which, sometime in April, right? So
yeah.
Okay. Well, until you get the chance to hear Mr. Chapek's earnings call, there are some other, things worth listening to online, and that includes Light the Fuse, which is the wonderful podcast that Drew does with Mr. Charles Hood. So, who are you and Charles talking to this week, Drew?
I think this week is one of our Jim Bissell episodes, which, Jim, you must listen to because he is so great and totally at the age when he does not care at all, which is the age that we like. I feel like I'm already at that age, but, you know.
I have to admit, you always enjoy that person who isn't worried about where their next job is coming from or who would I offend. When you get the real stories?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about, he was the production designer on Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation. He did things like he designed the opening credits for Amazing Stories, which I think is like one of the great opening credit sequences of all time. He worked on The Rocketeer, Arachnophobia, E.T. I mean, an insane list. And he is scheduled to work on Shrunk with our friend Josh Gad very soon. So
it's so interesting you bring that up because somebody tweeting about the sad news of Little Town being put on hold, they said, so you now pivot immediately to Shrunk or working with Rick Moranis? And Josh actually tweeted out something to the effect of, that's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, every time I talk to Joe, too, I'm like, Shrunk? We doing Shrunk? What's going on? So, yeah, hopefully soon. That'll be soon.
Okay.
But the Jim Bissell episodes are very special. I think everybody should check them out.
Absolutely. Check it out. Okay. Well, we also have some other podcasts here if you'd like to listen to those. We, of course, have Disney Dish with Len Testa. We have Marvelous Disney, which we're going to do with Aaron Adams.
Y'all going to have a lot to talk about this week. After the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. I'll reach out to Aaron right now. Okay. If you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, find Tooning. But also, if you want to head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be helpful. And Drew at the top of the show was talking about his online interaction with, that was Jared Bush, right?
Jared Bush. And yeah, Byron just liked my comment. So
there we go.
You could read into that, but then, Jared really fueled the flame, so I can only be responsible for so much, Jim. I lead the horse to water, but I don't make him drink.
You go. Well, seriously, if you're not following Drew on social media, you're missing out on these fun moments. So can you tell folks where they can find you?
Oh, sure. It is Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt on Instagram and Twitter. And what about you, Jim? Where can people find you?
Let's see. You can find
most likely Nancy, let's be honest. But go ahead.
There we go. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. That's it for this week, folks. Thanks for listening. And Drew and I will be back next week.